Every dawn presents an offering to you. It is the offering of a fresh start. Yet, many do not accept this gift. They awaken still holding the weight of yesterday, caught in the same currents of thought and perceived limits. They pull their past into their present and then ask why their journey feels stagnant. If you wish to cultivate a life of deep meaning, not simply of possessions, but of clarity, tranquility, and vital energy, you must learn to release the identity that has served its purpose. Not in the future, but in this breath. What has come before is history. It is not your essence. The moment you cease to identify with the story of your past, you unchain yourself from its repetition. Many carry their history like an inseparable shadow, unaware that it only lingers because they are turned towards it. Your story is a guide, not a definition. It may offer context, but it does not dictate the truth of who you are. Let the label fall away. Become fully present in this moment, for this is the sacred ground where true change takes root. If you seek inner richness, you must first create the space for it, and that space emerges only when you quiet the echoes of yesterday. The act of waking is more than the body rising. It is an opening for your spirit, but most only open their eyes to continue their slumber while walking. Do not simply wake, you must arrive. Arrive into this breath, arrive into this state of awareness. Be wholly here, before the day's demands begin to pull at you. Instead of reaching for a device, reach for your inner anchor. Witness what you feel, what you think, what you are resisting within. This quiet pause each morning can dissolve the layers of unconscious habit that shape your day. The part of you that impulsively reacts to all things is the very part that obstructs clarity. Instead of reacting, learn to witness. Simply observe your thoughts as you might observe clouds passing in the sky. Allow them to drift by. When you react, your inner strength is given to outer circumstances. When you respond from a place of stillness, you become the gentle guide of your own life. Your old patterns thrive on commotion and urgency. Your deeper self simply observes and then chooses with wisdom. This distance from your thoughts is not a retreat. It is your liberation. Stillness is a friend you may have forgotten. Many people fill the dawn with sound because they are uneasy with meeting themselves. But these first moments of your day are precious. They set the tone for all that follows. Sit with this stillness, not with melodies, nor lectures, nor ambitions. Simply be. In this emptiness, your mind finds its own natural order. Your inner turbulence begins to calm. When stillness is the first voice you hear, your actions gain intention, power, and alignment. A life of meaning begins where resistance ends, and stillness is the quiet gate through which that resistance departs. One of the great impediments to peace is the belief that the world is flawed. The world is not broken. It is our perception that may be obscured. What you perceive outwardly is often a reflection of the conditions within. If you consistently find fault, discord, and difficulty, it is a sign to gently clean your inner window. Gratitude is the very cloth that brings clarity. Genuine gratitude is not a ritual of words, it is a way of seeing. It's not about mechanically repeating phrases. It is about a profound recognition that this life, this very breath, this one moment, is an unearned gift. When you exist in a state of deep thankfulness, life has a way of showing you more and more to be thankful for. Discipline, so often mistaken for restriction, is in truth a powerful expression of self-respect. Your habitual self seeks ease, distraction, and fleeting pleasure, but your wiser self honors growth, clarity, and form. Each time you choose a moment of reflection over endless scrolling, a walk in nature over staying inert, a conscious response over a reaction, you are not inflicting a punishment. You are making an investment in your own evolution. Life does not give you what you wish for. It meets you where you are. Discipline shapes your being into one who is open and ready to receive life's flow without obstruction. Each morning is a chance to let go of who you were. This is not a dramatic act, but a spiritual one. Let go of your narratives, your justifications, your emotional burdens. Imagine for a moment waking with no memory of past failures or supposed weaknesses. Who might you be in that freedom? That aspect of you exists within already. You may not have met it, because the noise of your history has been too loud. Gently release the old self each day. Let every sunrise be a rite of renewal. Life does not favor repetition, it favors rediscovery. So, return to this insight not just once, but each morning. Let it serve as a quiet reminder that you are not your past. You are the infinite possibility of this moment. And it is in this moment that a meaningful life is lived. To awaken is not merely a mechanical function of opening your eyes and getting out of bed. It is not just the body shifting from a state of rest to a state of motion. To awaken, in the deepest sense, means to arrive, to fully land in the present. Most people open their eyes physically, but then they sleepwalk through the day. Mentally and emotionally, they are woken by alarms, by messages, by duties, but not by awareness. A true awakening is to become conscious of the now, of the breath flowing through you, of the silence that holds you before the day's activity starts. When you open your eyes in the morning, ask yourself, am I truly here, or am I just continuing yesterday's noise? The old pattern is to reach for the phone, for notifications, for the world's requests. But the new path, the conscious path, is to pause. It is to check inward first. What is the nature of my thoughts? What is the feeling in my body? What am I carrying from yesterday that can now be set down? To observe yourself in this quiet moment is not idle time. It is a preparation for a day of greater clarity and strength. Many are not aware of how quickly they return to their emotional grooves upon waking. They replay the same loops, the same inner conflicts, and wonder why their experience of life does not shift. But change doesn't come from repeating the same actions with a different hope. It comes from seeing yourself with clarity and choosing not to act from an unconscious place. When you learn to observe your mind in the morning, even for just a few moments, you begin the process of loosening the grip of old patterns. You begin to interrupt the automatic behaviors that hold you back. This arrival into the morning is a subtle but profound practice. It does not require any special tools or elaborate ceremony. It simply requires your presence. Sit for a moment in silence. Feel the gentle rhythm of your breath. Hear the world stirring around you. Feel the energy of a new day meeting you, like an untouched canvas. This is the moment you can choose not to paint the same picture as yesterday. This is where you select awareness over habit. This is where your energy aligns with something greater than mere routine. It aligns with your deeper intention. When you greet your morning in this manner, you begin to train your mind to respond to life, rather than just react to it. You are no longer pulled by every impulse. You become the witness, and from that stillness, the creator. The old patterns react swiftly, need constant stimulus, and shrink from stillness. But the version of you that is truly awake does not fear the quiet. It draws strength from it, because it is from that quiet that insight, clarity, and a sense of abundance naturally arise. When your first act of the day is awareness, the rest of the day tends to reflect that same quality. To arrive in the morning also means releasing your tight grip on expectation. You do not need to foresee how the day will go. You do not need to manage every outcome. You only need to be rooted in the now. When you are fully here, your presence expands. You walk into your day with centeredness, not pressure. You start to see more, to feel more, to connect more deeply, not because you are forcing a result, but because you are in harmony with the flow of life. A meaningful life always finds the one who is not distracted from their own center. So, tomorrow morning, before anything else, remember this. Do not just wake up, arrive. Do not just get out of bed, rise into awareness. That small but powerful shift will begin to gently dismantle the habits of the old self and create the space for a more authentic self to emerge. You are not here simply to repeat your days. You are here to renew your experience every single morning. And the more you arrive in each day with awareness, the more each day will arrive in you with richness. The mind is much like a river, flowing ceaselessly, carrying thoughts, feelings, and memories in its current. Most people are swept away by this river. The moment they wake, A single thought enters, and they are instantly carried off by it. They recall a difficult memory from yesterday, and their inner peace is disturbed. They rehearse a possible conflict for today, and a feeling of tension builds. Unaware, they are no longer here in this room, in this moment. They are living within projections. This is the way of the old self, habitual, automatic, and asleep to the present. To step out of this cycle, you must become the observer of your mind, not its captive. Before your feet even touch the floor in the morning, take a single moment to simply watch your thoughts. Do not try to stop them. Do not follow them downstream. Simply watch. Notice them. Like clouds drifting through an endless sky, they appear and they fade. You do not have to chase after everyone. You do not have to believe every story they tell. The space between you, the watcher, and your thoughts is the dawn of freedom. In this gap, transformation has room to breathe. When you create this space, even for a few seconds, something profound occurs. You cease to react automatically. You stop allowing your history or your anxieties to set the tone of your being. Many are trapped in reactivity, doing what they have always done, feeling what they have always felt. But the moment you observe without reacting, you interrupt that program. You become conscious. You become present. And in presence, there is a quiet strength. You shift from being governed by the mind to being the governor of your state. Reactivity is the language of the old patterns. It is a reflex born of past pain, of insecurity, of ego, of fear. But a response is different. A response comes from clarity. It is not rushed. It is not defensive. It emerges from stillness. The one who reacts is predictable and easily unsettled. The one who responds is steady and centered. Others will begin to feel this shift in your presence. You will feel it inside yourself. You have no need to prove or to justify. You simply remain aware, and within that awareness, the right action reveals itself. This practice of inner observation is not about pushing away your emotions or feigning calmness. It is about seeing the emotion with fullness and choosing not to be carried away by it. You can feel a wave of anger rise without becoming the anger. You can notice fear without becoming the fear. This level of awareness rewrites the very code of your old self. It dissolves the patterns that no longer serve you, not by struggle but by gentle light. When something is seen with clarity, its power to control you from the shadows diminishes. The clarity itself is the healing. To live this way, you do not need to retreat from the world or meditate for hours. You simply need to build the habit of observation. Every morning, before the world receives your energy, give that energy first to yourself. You sit for 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10, whatever is possible. You close your eyes, you breathe, and you just watch. Let the mind do what it does. Let feelings come and go. Do nothing. Be nothing. Simply be the one who sees. With time, that seer, that witness, becomes stronger than the noise. Eventually, this observation becomes your natural way of being. You find you are no longer reacting to life in the same old ways. You pause before you speak. You feel before you decide. You notice your own triggers instead of stepping into their traps. This is not weakness. This is true self-mastery. And when you arrive at this point, you have already begun to release your old self. Not through force, not through pretending, but by becoming deeply aware of who you are and choosing moment by moment to be fully present. In that presence, life's gifts flow without effort. Most people start their day with an influx of noise. The moment their eyes open, they reach for their phones, absorb the news, or engage in conversation, often unaware of the inner disturbance they are inviting into their day. They equate movement with progress, sound with productivity, and being busy with being successful. But true strength begins in silence. Silence is not the absence of external sound. It is the presence of internal awareness. In that space before words are formed, before tasks are listed, lies a clarity that noise can never offer. The practice is not about avoiding sound altogether. It is about not being afraid to meet yourself without a single distraction. When you start your day in silence, you are offering yourself the most uncommon gift in our modern world: stillness. In that stillness, something inside you begins to find its balance. The thoughts that once raced begin to slow their pace. The emotions that felt overwhelming start to soften. The inner pressure that seemed so solid begins to lose its hold. All of this happens not because you are forcing an outcome, but because you are simply allowing space for it. Silence creates room for your own truth to surface. It does not fill your mind, it clears it. And when you are clear internally, you naturally foster clarity in your outer life. There is a deep intelligence in silence that no amount of words can teach. In that quiet space, you start to hear what is truly happening within you. You might feel discomfort. You might feel a profound peace. But whatever arises is real, and it is yours to observe. Many people flee from silence because it reveals what they have been trying to avoid. But if you can learn to sit with it, the discomfort can transform into depth. You begin to understand that you are not your thoughts. You are not your worries. You are not your plans for the day. You are the quiet witness behind it all. And that witness is powerful beyond measure. Before the world asks for your attention, give your attention to your inner world. Let silence be the first voice you listen to. It will teach you more about yourself than any external guidance ever could. This is not to reject wisdom or inspiration from others. It's about preparing the inner ground to truly receive it. Without silence, you are merely stacking more information on an already cluttered mind. But with a foundation of silence, even a single insight can reorient your entire path. Your mind becomes like still water, capable of reflecting truth without the distortion of ripples. In silence, you are not being unproductive or wasting precious time. You are returning to your natural state of being, the place where your energy comes into harmony with life itself. This is where a meaningful life begins, not in great effort, but in profound presence. The more still you become, the more you can discern what truly matters. You begin to see which thoughts are worth your attention, which feelings are calling for gentle healing, and which aspirations deserve your action. Silence does not remove the challenges of life, but it helps you to move through them without becoming lost in them. It may feel strange at first to sit quietly while the world rushes on, but the greatest changes always begin in the unseen realm within. Just a few minutes of silence each morning can send a ripple of peace through your entire day. You start to speak with more care, act with more clarity, and live with more intention. You cease to chase after well-being and instead begin to radiate it from your core. People notice a different quality in your presence, not because of what you say, but because of the peace you embody. When silence becomes your habit, your old, reactive self cannot survive. The version of you that depended on noise, on reaction, on mental chatter, begins to dissolve. What emerges in its place is a person who is grounded, aware, and deeply connected to life. This new self does not look for approval or attention. It carries its own calm. It finds that abundance flows to it, not through striving, but through alignment. So every morning, before you allow the world in, first allow silence in. Let it speak to you in its own quiet way, and you will find that in its stillness, it can tell you everything you truly need to know. Most people will spend their lives trying to correct everything outside of themselves. They operate from a belief that if the world would just change, if other people would act differently, if their circumstances were easier, then and only then could they find inner peace. This illusion holds them captive in a loop of blame and frustration. They see problems all around. They see faults in others, injustice in events, and unfairness in the design of life. But they may not realize that they are not seeing the world as it truly is. The world is a mirror. It is reflecting them back to themselves. They are seeing it through a conditioned lens, a filter that has been shaped by their past, their unresolved emotions, and their unconscious habits. The lens through which you see the world determines everything. Two people can be in the very same situation and experience it in completely different ways, not because the external world is different for each of them, but because their inner perception is different. If your lens is clouded by fear, you will perceive threats in every corner. If it is clouded by resentment, you will find evidence of betrayal in every exchange. If it is scratched by old wounds, you will project that pain onto people who never caused it. This is how the old self continues its existence. It keeps your gaze directed outward, so that you never question the distortions within. It convinces you that your suffering is caused by the world, rather than your interpretation of the world. Trying to change your experience of life without first clarifying your perception is like trying to clean a mirror by wiping the reflection itself. You can argue, you can resist, you can complain and demand, but if the lens remains untouched, the view will remain distorted. This is not to say that the world has no challenges. It means that your ability to meet those challenges with wisdom is entirely dependent on your perception. When your mind is filled with judgments, every obstacle becomes a personal affront. When your mind is calm and clear, the very same obstacles can become opportunities for growth. Clarity turns chaos into a path. Your judgments are not deep insights. They are often just the echoes of your past pain. Every time you find yourself thinking, "People are always this way," or "Things never work out," you are speaking from an old wound, not from a place of awareness. These sweeping statements do not reflect the reality of the world. They reflect the unresolved parts of you. The moment you start to question these beliefs, the lens begins to clear. You start to see people not as adversaries, but as messengers. Situations no longer feel so personal. They become part of a greater flow that you can learn to move with. You do not receive what you want from life. You receive a reflection of who you are. If your inner world is full of resistance, you will meet resistance everywhere. If your heart is closed, abundance and connection cannot find a way in. When you make even a small adjustment to your lens, your whole world begins to appear different. You start to see beauty where you once saw only mundanity. You begin to feel calm in situations that used to trigger anxiety. It is not that the world has changed. It is that you have changed the way you meet it. This shift is subtle, but it is profound. Clarifying your lens is not a single act. It is a daily practice. Each morning, you must gently clean it with awareness, with gratitude, with stillness and reflection. You must ask yourself, am I seeing this situation clearly? Or am I seeing my own story about it? You must be honest enough to see your own distortions and courageous enough to let them go. This is not always easy. It demands humility. It demands releasing the part of you that may find comfort in being a victim. But in that release, you reclaim your inner authority, the power to see life as it is, not as your wounds color it. When you stop trying to fix the world and focus instead on clarifying your lens, a new self begins to emerge. This self is no longer so reactive, no longer so bitter, no longer trapped in conflict. It is calm, it is present, it is open. It does not require the world to change in order to feel peace. It brings its peace into the world by how it chooses to see and to respond. This is how abundance finds you. Not when everything outside of you is perfect, but when your perception becomes clear enough to see the gifts that were always there. Gratitude is often treated as a simple courtesy, the act of saying thank you, as a matter of habit or social form. But authentic gratitude goes much deeper than words. It is not just a reaction to a pleasant event. It is a conscious awareness that this life, in all of its complexity, owes you nothing at all. And yet, it provides everything you need to grow, to experience, and to evolve. This insight turns gratitude from a polite ritual into a profound revelation. When you can feel thankful not because your world is perfect, but simply because you are present and breathing within it, your entire inner world begins to shift. Gratitude interrupts the inner narrative of not enough. It gently stops the cycle of want and brings your awareness back to the now. It reminds you that this very breath is not a given, that the food you eat, the people in your life, the lessons you are learning, all of it is part of a generous unfolding that you did not orchestrate, yet are blessed to be part of. When you begin your day with a sense of gratitude, you are not simply practicing positive thinking. You are recalibrating your entire being. You are consciously stepping out of the mindset of lack and into a state of openness. This isn't about ignoring problems. It's about choosing to first acknowledge what is already here, what is already whole, and what is already a gift. From this state of fullness, you stop chasing and start aligning. Opportunities that were once hidden from you begin to appear, not because the world itself changed, but because the lens through which you see it has been cleared. Gratitude brings humility to the ego. It dissolves the feeling of entitlement. It gently removes the illusion that life should give you something more simply because you are working hard. It shows you that the sun rises without your command, that your heart beats without your direct permission, that countless small miracles sustain you in every moment. When you see life through this lens, your feeling of struggle begins to ease. You still take action, but it comes from a place of inspiration, not desperation. You act from fullness, not from emptiness. There is also a quiet, healing power in gratitude. It gives you the capacity to forgive, to release, and to accept. When you can be grateful for your lessons, even the painful ones, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance. You realize that life has been shaping you, not harming you. Gratitude can transform your scars into symbols of your resilience. It doesn't deny pain, but it finds meaning within it, and it is meaning that the human heart seeks. When you can find meaning in your past, you no longer carry fear of your future. You walk with a quiet peace, trusting that no experience is ever truly wasted. To practice gratitude does not require ideal conditions. You do not need more money, more success, or more approval from others. You only need to be aware. Every morning, before your mind can begin listing all that is missing, gently train it to notice all that is present. The more you practice this, the more your inner state will change. Life will begin to feel lighter, clearer, more welcoming. You become more magnetic to good things, not by demanding that the world give them to you, but by becoming fully open to receiving what is already here and what is on its way. The old self feeds on complaints and dissatisfaction. It often needs something to be wrong to feel like it has a purpose. But when you consciously choose gratitude, that self begins to soften. In its place arises a version of you that radiates a calm strength, that appreciates abundance, and that trusts the rhythm of life. This is not magic, it is alignment. And that alignment is anchored in presence. Gratitude roots you in the now, releases your attachment to what is lacking, and prepares you to receive life's gifts without inner resistance. In that state, you no longer have to pursue anything. You become the space where good things naturally come to rest. There are aspects of our lives we do our best to avoid. Certain feelings, memories, patterns, or even people that stir a sense of discomfort within us. We try to push them to the periphery, bury them under daily activity, and tell ourselves that we have moved past them. But that which we resist does not simply vanish. It lingers in the shadows. And the more we try to run from it, the more influence it gains over us. Resistance often creates repetition. You may notice that you find yourself in a similar kind of relationship, a similar disagreement, or the same internal battle over and over, without quite understanding why. This is not a punishment from life. It is a quiet call for your awareness. It is the nature of the mind to seek what is comfortable. It wants safety, ease, and what is familiar. But true growth is not found in comfort. It is found in gently turning to meet that which you have been unwilling to face. The very feeling you avoid, the pattern you deny, is the hidden doorway to your own transformation. Life will continue to bring it to your attention, not to wound you, but to awaken you. You cannot release what you have not yet acknowledged. You cannot heal what you have not yet allowed yourself to feel. The old self survives through this pattern of avoidance. The new self is born through a gentle acceptance. When you finally turn to look at what you have been running from, you begin to reclaim the energy you lost in running. You may realize that the feeling itself is not as devastating as your fear of it was. Much of our suffering comes not from the experience itself, but from the resistance to the experience. By calmly observing the pattern, seeking to understand its origin, and allowing the attached feelings to be there without judgment, you begin to break the cycle. You start to see it not as a part of your identity, but as something that has passed through you and taught you. This shift is quiet, but it is the start of real freedom. Healing is not about constructing a new self. It is about gently removing what is not truly you. The emotional weight you carry is often inherited from your history, your upbringing, your past experiences. It is not your fault that you carry it, but it is your responsibility to gently set it down. And that journey begins with the courage to face it. Sit with your own discomfort for a moment. Allow it to speak. Let it show you where you have been holding tension, or blame, or fear, or grief. This is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of courage. Real strength is not in pretending you are unaffected. It is in being willing to feel what is truly there. Resistance often arrives with judgment. We label our feelings as bad or wrong or shameful. We suppress our sadness, our anger, our confusion because we believe we should not be feeling them. But feelings are not good or bad. They are messengers. They arise to show us something that needs our gentle attention. When you listen to them without pushing them away, they begin to soften. When you allow yourself to feel them without judging yourself, you begin to heal. What once seemed to overwhelm you now becomes manageable. What once seemed to define you now becomes simply a lesson learned. Facing what you resist is not a single, dramatic event. It is a quiet practice. Each time a difficult feeling arises, you meet it with a little more presence, a little more understanding. You observe it like an old visitor, no longer with fear, no longer with a fight. In that calm witnessing, its emotional charge begins to fade. You start to respond to life differently. You stop acting from the old wound and start acting from your present wisdom. This does not mean you will never feel pain again, but it means that the pain will no longer be in control of you. The old pattern loses its grip, and your life begins to open up in new directions. As long as you resist something, it tends to follow you. It may repeat through different people, different situations, and different emotions, but the very moment you face it with full, compassionate awareness, it begins to dissolve. This is how you break free from the past, not by forgetting it, but by integrating its lessons. You do not erase the old self. You understand it so completely that it no longer has power over you. And in that compassionate understanding, you release it. That is how true transformation occurs. That is how the old program comes to an end and a new way of living can begin. Through presence, through acceptance, and through the quiet courage to face what you once feared. Your external environment is not something separate from you. It is often a mirror of your inner landscape, the space in which you live, the company you keep, the routines you follow each day. All of these things can reflect your internal state. When your surroundings are in disorder, are disorganized, or feel draining, it is frequently a sign that your inner world is also in a state of unrest. We often overlook this connection and instead blame external things for the way we feel. But if you pay close attention, you will notice that the chaos outside of you is often a silent echo of the chaos within. This is not about feeling guilty or ashamed. It is about a gentle awareness that what you see around you is frequently a reflection of your own mind and energy. Many people desire peace, but they choose to live in constant noise. They want clarity, but their personal space is filled with clutter. They wish for growth, but they surround themselves with people and habits that encourage stagnation. What you allow to be around you says a great deal about how you value yourself. If you live in a state of disarray, it becomes more difficult to think with clarity, to make wise decisions, or to feel inspired. The environment itself can become heavy, and that weight can influence every area of your life. You might not notice it day to day, but over time, it becomes the very atmosphere in which you think, feel, and exist. To change your environment is not just about the physical act of tidying your room or organizing your desk. It is a sacred practice. It is a declaration to yourself that you are worthy of living in a state of clarity and peace. When you bring order to your physical space, you are telling yourself that you deserve an orderly mind. When you let go of possessions that no longer serve you, you are practicing the vital art of release. And when you choose with intention who and what you allow into your life, you are stepping into your own authority. This is not superficial work. This is deeply spiritual. It is about energetic alignment. Every object in your possession holds an energy. Every part of your space holds a memory. Ask yourself, what kind of energy am I surrounded by each day? Are my walls filled with things that inspire me, or with reminders of a past self? Are the people I spend my time with uplifting, or do they drain my energy? Are my daily habits aligned with the person I am becoming, or with the person I am trying to move on from? These questions are not meant to create pressure. They are an invitation to be honest with yourself. Because when your environment is cultivated with intention, it begins to nourish the version of you that is striving to emerge. Abundance does not readily enter spaces where chaos holds sway, not because it is barred from entry, but because there is simply no room for it to be received and to settle. A clear mind is a magnet for clear opportunities. A calm space is a home for creative thought. A supportive community of friends energizes your aspirations instead of draining them. Your environment will either help you to expand, or it will subtly shrink you. It will either fuel your growth, or it will keep you caught in cycles that feel familiar, but ultimately unfulfilling. If you want to see new outcomes in your life, begin with your immediate world. Tend to it with care. Make it a reflection of the energy that you wish to embody. There is no need to transform everything all at once. Start small. Remove one single thing that no longer gives you a sense of joy. Spend just a few minutes each day creating a small pocket of order. Begin to set gentle boundaries with people who leave you feeling drained. Start to notice how your own body feels in different spaces and in the company of different people. These small actions build upon each other. As you cultivate more clarity on the outside, it begins to be mirrored on the inside. You start to feel lighter, more focused, more in alignment. The background noise quiets down. The distractions begin to fade. And in their place, a new space opens up for new ideas, for new opportunities, and for inner peace. When your environment is a support for your highest self, you no longer have to struggle to create abundance. It arrives in a more natural way. It feels welcome in your life because you have consciously made room for it. You have created a home, not just with walls and furniture, but with clear energy and focused intention. And that is when life begins to reflect your inner state with beautiful precision. You do not chase abundance. It starts to find you because you are no longer sending a mixed signal. You are clear, you are aligned, and you are ready. And the nature of life is to always respond to clarity. Always. Discipline is often viewed as something severe, something that confines you or removes the spontaneity from life. But in truth, discipline is not about punishing yourself. It is about aligning yourself. It is the practice of saying yes to what is truly important and no to what offers only a moment of comfort. When you begin to live with a sense of discipline, you are not working against yourself. You are moving toward the person you know you can become. You are choosing the path of growth over the path of comfort, the path of clarity over the path of chaos, and the path of purpose over a pleasure that fades too quickly to have meaning. Most people avoid discipline because they have come to associate it with struggle, with rigidity, or with self-denial. But true discipline is not born from self-criticism. It is born from self-respect. It is a quiet declaration that you are worth the effort, that your deepest aspirations are worth protecting, and that your time on this earth is sacred. It is not something you apply only now and then. It becomes a way of life, a way of honoring yourself in even the smallest of your decisions. From the food you eat to the way you speak to the habits you choose to repeat, every single choice is either building your future or holding you in your past. The old self is often attached to ease, to distraction, to comfort. It wants to feel good in this moment, even if it leads to a feeling of regret later on. It will whisper to you to skip the practice, to avoid the difficult conversation, to put off the important work. And every time you listen to that voice, you strengthen the part of yourself that remains stagnant. But the moment you choose discipline, even in one small area of your life, you begin to shift your own identity. You stop being someone who simply hopes, and you start becoming someone who builds. This shift is subtle, but with time, it changes everything. Discipline is not about attaining perfection. It is about cultivating consistency. You will still have moments of weakness. You will still face struggles. But you will return to your path more quickly because your foundation has become stronger. You no longer depend on motivation, which comes and goes like the weather. You learn to rely on your commitment, which can be as steady as the earth beneath you. And this steady commitment sends a clear signal, not just to yourself but to the world, that you are serious, that you are no longer available for your own excuses, that you have made a decision to move forward, no matter how small the steps may feel. Every time you rise early, when it would be easier to stay in bed, every time you choose your deeper purpose over a momentary distraction, you are demonstrating something powerful. You are proving that you can be trusted with more responsibility, more clarity, more vitality. Life does not simply reward your desires, it responds to your readiness. And discipline is how you demonstrate that you are ready. It is the bridge that connects your intention to its manifestation. Without it, your dreams remain as mere ideas. With it, your dreams can become your reality. There will be days when practicing discipline feels like a lonely road, when it appears that everyone else is relaxing or celebrating while you are doing the quiet work. But in those moments, remember why you started this journey. Remember that you are not walking this path to gain the approval of others. You are walking it to meet the version of yourself that only a committed practice can reveal. That version of you is already inside. It is simply waiting for you to become consistent enough to bring it forth. To choose discipline is to choose yourself. Not just the self you are today, but the self you are capable of becoming. It is an act of deep self-love, perhaps the highest form, because it requires patience, foresight, and a quiet strength. You are not just living for today's comfort. With every conscious action, you are building your tomorrow. And in that future, you will look back not with regret, but with gratitude, because you will know that you showed up for yourself, even when it was difficult. And that kind of love for oneself creates a life that does not need to chase abundance. It becomes a source of it. Transformation is not something that arrives with a loud sound or a dramatic event. It does not always need the world to stop turning or for everything in your life to fall apart. True transformation begins in the quiet moments, in the small choices you make without any audience, in the simple willingness to let go of the version of yourself that no longer serves your path forward. Every single morning, you are offered this chance. This is not a metaphor, it is a literal truth. When you open your eyes, you can choose to let yesterday be complete, not just the events of the day, but the mindset, the excuses, and the limitations that have been quietly shaping your reality. Most people carry the same identity from one day into the next. They will say, "This is just who I am. This is how I've always been. This is what I am capable of." But that identity is not a solid thing. It is a pattern. It is a memory. It is a collection of choices that are being repeated without being questioned. When you wake and you say to yourself, "I am no longer bound by that version of me," you interrupt the cycle. You grant yourself the permission to be new, and that permission is deeply powerful. Life does not respond to your distant potential. It responds to the energy that you embody in this present moment. To die to the old self daily does not mean to destroy yourself. It means to gently shed the layers of falsehood, of fear, of habit. It means to look at your familiar excuses and to say, "I am finished using these as a reason to stay where I am." It means to see your fears and to say, "Today, I will not let you guide my steps." This is not an act of denial. It is an act of choice. You are not denying that the past happened. You are simply choosing not to carry it with you into this new day. This inner release is not about destruction. It is about liberation. It clears the inner ground so that something new has space to grow. Many people wait for a crisis to trigger their transformation. A loss, a heartbreak. But what if you did not wait? What if you chose to evolve before life applied pressure? That is the path of mastery. That is when you truly begin to walk in harmony with life. Every morning, you have the power to close a chapter. Not because the story is over, but because you are ready to begin writing a new one. You do not need a reason other than your own deep desire for freedom. You only need the courage to stop clinging to who you believed you were yesterday. In doing this, you make yourself available to life in its pure form, unfiltered by past stories, undiluted by old fears, and fully alive. Rebirth is not some far-off concept. It is happening in every moment that you stop allowing old thoughts to run your mind. Every time you choose your inner truth over a familiar story, you are reborn. Every time you choose a conscious action over hesitation, presence over habit, you are reborn. Rebirth happens when you remember that you are not your past. You are not your name, your history, or your list of struggles. You are the silent awareness that witnesses all of it. And from that place of pure awareness, anything is possible. The most beautiful thing about this practice is that it does not demand perfection from you. It only asks for your intention. This process of releasing and being renewed is not always comfortable. Letting go rarely is, but it is necessary, because the longer you hold on to the old self, the heavier life can feel. The aspirations that once filled you with energy may start to feel distant. The joy you once found in simple things may begin to fade. Not because life has stopped offering its gifts, but because you are no longer open to receiving them. When you allow the old self to be released, you do not lose anything of value. You make space. You invite new ways of thinking, new opportunities, new levels of clarity into your life. The world around you will reflect what is taking place inside you. When you shift, it will shift with you. The nature of life is to always respond to who you are being. Not who you used to be, not who you hope to be one day, but who you are in this very moment. When you rise each day with the mindset that anything old can be released, you carry a different energy. You speak with more truth, you act with more courage, and you live with more ease. You are no longer trying to become something. You are simply being, and that energy cannot be ignored by life. That is when true abundance finds you. Not because you have forced it, but because you have aligned with it. Through the simple, courageous act of releasing your limits and rising into your truth. You are not here to repeat your life. You are here to renew it. The old self was built for survival. The new self is built on awareness. True abundance does not come from chasing. It comes from alignment. Every morning is an invitation to release who you were and to become who you truly are. So do not just listen to these words once. Return to them each morning, not just with your ears, but with your entire being. And when you begin to live from that centered place, the doors of life will have no choice but to open for you.